for a little while about leadership, but I've been here in Ukraine for about a week, and I have another week or so. This is my second of 4 cities. We're going from here to Lviv and then to Odessa. I'd love to hear, are there things that you think I should see or experience in Ukraine? I'd just love to hear from a few people, something that, I'm going to introduce myself in a minute, but this is kind of to warm up the crowd. This is like the warm-up act before the main act comes on. We'll let people come in a couple minutes. So something I should do or see here in your city or in Ukraine, or something I should eat, or some experience that is very much a part of your culture. Somebody who is willing to speak in English or... Let me say, my hope is most of you can understand what I'm saying. Yes. Okay, so I didn't mean to be rude or to speak down to you, but I am going to be speaking in English. We don't have translation. I do have handouts for you. They are printed in English and in Russian. So that will be helpful. Yes, go ahead. I have eaten borscht several times. This is my 5th or 6th visit to Ukraine. The first time was 13 years ago. So, and I've had borscht many times. You know, it was not my favorite soup, I must say, when I first tried it, but I've come to really like it, especially when it's cold. I like it. No, not cold. Not when the soup is cold. When the weather is cold and the borscht is warm, then I really like it. But yes, so I had borscht. Okay, so which Gorky Park? In what city? Here? Yes. Okay, because I've actually been in another Gorky Park. I don't think so. Not far. So I should get there tomorrow. Very beautiful place. Thank you. Okay. Somebody else? What should I do? Or eat? Yes.
Tell us, please, would you like to choose Kharkiv, like city to live,
my wife and I were talking about that today, actually. So, it's a beautiful city. I'm from Southern California. I live outside of Los Angeles. I don't live in Hollywood or Beverly Hills. I'm not. My name is Richard. People call me Rich. That is my name. That is not what I am. But so we've enjoyed our brief visit here so far, and the buildings, the monuments, there's a lot of, and this is my third university I visited since we've come here. Yes, I don't think we would move here to stay for the rest of our lives, but we are considering a move to this part of the world, and this might be one of the places that we would consider moving.
What are you doing in Kharkov?
What do I do? So let me tell you a little bit more about me. I was a student like you 30 years ago. I studied chemistry and economics in my undergraduate days. I did graduate school in computer science. I taught computer programming for 3 years. This was all at Stanford University in California, Northern California, in the early 1980s. Then I left my kind of, potential computer career. I don't know if you guys have heard of like Google. So Google was started by people who were at my university, but just after me. So I was in the computer science department at Stanford, Then Paige and Bryn came along afterward. Of course, it would have been great if they were students when I was there, and I decided to work with them, but they were after my time. So it was very fun to be at Stanford in computers in the early 1980s. Lots of new things were going on there, but I left that and had a 20-year career teaching the Bible to college students in the United States, and then after that to other places, including Ukraine, which was the thing that got me to Ukraine the first time. I left that in 2007. Oh, and we're talking about leadership, so you should know that while I was working for that nonprofit organization, I supervised people who supervised people who supervised people, and my part of the organization, there were about 250 people working for the organization that I led. And so I hired people, I trained them at a fairly high level, and I saw many of the people I worked with go on to take positions of greater responsibility. Since 2007, I tried to start a business in Africa, which was a biofuel business, and it failed when the price of oil plummeted and the global economy collapsed in late 2008. And since early 2009, I've been working as a project manager for a software firm, a small software firm. I have a team of people. So I don't write computer programs now, but I work with people who do and kind of direct their activities. So that's a little...
Excuse me, sorry. Kind of, we're back to compare two cities. Your hometown and Kharkiv. If you compare the architecture, the style of building, what did you say? Like the same, you have some cities in your home country, the same, or? Yes, it's relatively for me.
No, very few. I mean, first of all, Kharkiv looks like a European city. I mean, there are a lot of European cities with this kind of architecture. Very few American cities. I don't live in a city. I live in a town of about 100,000 or 150,000 people. So I live in a house. It's not a big building. It's just 2 stories. It's not a... So it's like a suburb, if you know that word. That's where I live. So, it's not very glamorous, but it is where a lot of Americans live. So Kharkiv is more beautiful than...
More historical you think or not?
Sorry?
More historical?
More historical buildings, yes. Okay, so let me get back to... just one other thing about me that's relevant. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 20. Some of you, I'm guessing, are 20. She's a second-year university student studying international relations in Washington, D.C. My son is 22. There might be some 22-year-olds here. He lives in London. He's a Bitcoin entrepreneur. Does anybody know what Bitcoin is?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's started his own. He's got the largest Bitcoin exchange that exchanges between Bitcoin and the British pound. He lives in London, and he's one of the key Bitcoin people in the United Kingdom. So he's 22. He's CEO of his own little company. And he makes very little money, but he's learning a lot. And I love both of those things about where my son is at right now. He doesn't make a lot of money, but he's learning a great deal. So that's a bit about me. We're going to talk about leadership, and I want to ask you, how many people here see yourselves as leaders? Raise your hand if you see yourself as a leader. That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, I'll tell you, this is like my 15th or so time like this. I've never seen more than half the hands go up. So this is a leader-rich environment. I love that. So the folks, if there anybody here who hesitated about raising your hand, and let me just speak to the rest of you. I know this is kind of a business. You guys are preparing for leadership, but I want to add to your notion of leadership a couple other dimensions. Because you might have thought, I'm coming here to learn about how to be a leader in business. But some of you are going to want to get married. And some of you are going to want to have kids. So I'm going to define leadership in this way. So it's maybe a little bit different than... A leader is someone who has intention to influence another person or group toward good purposes for that person or group. So by that, what I mean to kind of emphasize is intention. A leader wants to influence other people. Not just accidentally, but on purpose. And secondly, that a leader is not someone who tricks people to do things that are good for the leader but bad for the person. Right? Like to think about a used car salesman selling you a car that is a piece of junk. Right? That may be a person who's trying to influence you, but that's not a leader. And what we're talking about today is not about how to get ahead by pushing other people down. A leader is someone who has intention to influence a person or group toward good purposes for that person or group. Does that make sense? From that standpoint, you are all, I think, wanting to be leaders in life. You're going to want to have relationships, friendships. Ultimately, you're going to want to influence the person you marry for good purposes for that person. Not just to get your way, not just so that they do your laundry, make your dinner, or work hard while you relax, but because you want them to grow. You want them to be better, their best self. That's influence, and that's what leadership is about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And some of you, should it so happen that children come into your lives, which, when I was your age, I was not thinking about children, but they are the best thing that has ever happened to me. You're going to want to influence your children for good purposes for them. Not so that they do your, chores, but because you want them to grow, to be the best they can be. The stuff that I'm talking about today, I learned about the same time I became a father. My son was just an infant. I've been using this with my kids their whole lives. And it has helped me to be a dad that's where my kids in their 20s still like my Facebook posts, want to talk with me pretty often on Skype. They live in different cities, on different continents. I don't often see them face to face, but my relationship with them is close. The kind of relationship you will want to have with your kids someday. Many of you do have with your own parents. So, the stuff we're talking about is not just so that you can use it when you get a job in the business that you work for. But this stuff will help you in every relationship you care about your whole life long. So if I can deliver on that promise, do I have your attention? Yes. Good. Okay. With that, let me hand out this handout. And I don't know how many people there are in here. Okay, so let me see if we can do the rest of the kind of paper passing quietly. And again, we will read the handout. You don't need to read it now. But what I'd like you to all. Okay. It's going back. I'd like you all to think with me about a person in your life that you would like to influence this week. Okay? Because what we're going to do, we're going to walk through a process, situational leadership. We're going to walk through a process, and it will be more helpful for you if you've got a specific situation in mind. Because out of this time, I'm going to ask you to put into practice the stuff you hear in the next hour in your life in the next week. Okay? So I want you to think with me about somebody that you would like to influence. It might be, for example, now, if some of you are already a boss and you already have underlings, it might be one of the people that report to you. But my guess is most of you aren't already bosses and don't already have peons that report to you. You know, I'm using that ironically, in a humorous way. You don't have people that report to you. But you do have a sibling, say a younger brother, who lives with you in your parents' home and who never remembers to put away his clothes. So your younger brother takes off his clothes, flops into bed in the morning, wears other clothes, takes them off, flops into bed, and there's a pile up, and your side of the room is neat, and his side of the room looks like a bomb went off in the closet. And so your desire for your younger brother is that he learn to pick up his clothes. Okay, that would be one way you'd like to have influence, and you could think about that. Or it might be with a sister, a younger sister who you know has potential for high-level, university-level work, but is not working hard enough in high school as much as you did when you were in high school. And you feel like your influence in her life could make the difference. It might be with a parent, a mom that is struggling to quit smoking, or your desire to help your dad be able to communicate more effectively without raising his voice and using language that makes it impossible for people to really appreciate what he has to say.
Excuse me, can I be myself, for example?
You're 2 steps ahead of me. I'd like to back you up. We'll get there, okay? Because we're going to get to that example. But I want you to think about somebody else for the purpose of this, okay? So I appreciate that question. We'll come back to that. But I want you to think about somebody that you would like to influence. It could be a friend that has said, boy, I'd love to get on the workout routine that you're on, but I just don't lack the motivation, or something like that. Somebody that you would like to influence in some way, just put that person in your mind and that specific situation in your mind, okay? Okay. That's the setup. Now let me just start talking about leadership. So when we think about leadership, there's often kind of 2 extremes presented. There's the autocratic style of leadership. Person who knows how to do it, what to do, when to do it, which is now, and doesn't give you much room to kind of deviate or flexible, have your own way of thinking. Then there's the democratic style of leadership, the person who really wants to hear your opinion, and maybe does everybody feel good about this, and let's keep talking, and then let's vote on it. Which style of leadership is better? Democrat.
For effective work.
First one.
Second.
Okay. Both of them. In the right order. First autocrat, then Democrat. Okay, of course. It depends on the situation. You would have all gotten there. You just have to think about it for a few seconds, right? So yes, of course, we all like the idea of kind of the democratic style. But I'll tell you, when I was biking with my kids on the road, down the path, the road that's near our house, and there was a big truck coming down from the other direction. And my son, who was not paying attention, out in the middle of the road, I did not gather my family for a little kind of democratic caucus. Which side of the road do you think we should all bike on? I want to make sure we hear from everybody. I became the autocrat. Pull over, Mark, get over to the right side, get out of the way. Which was the right style for this situation?
First one.
No, I'm not asking the question. I'm saying that was. Yes, obviously, duh. That was the right style for this situation. Situational leadership begins with the fundamental observation that leadership is situational. The best leadership style is not autocrat or democrat or the perfect blend. It's the one that meets the needs of the situation. Right? Now, there is something kind of obvious about that. And yet, we as human beings get into ruts. We have a preferred style, or we think of ourselves and we're following this kind of imaginary or perhaps a real leader that is, we consider the ideal leader, and we ask, what would that person do? And we kind of put that answer on, and we kind of try to fit one size, one strategy that works in most cases. And so we can sometimes get it wrong. And a lot of struggle with companies or in relationships between parents and kids is when there is a leadership style mismatch. When the boss is spelling out in minute detail what needs to be done to a very capable employee who does not need that level of detail. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to introduce you to a few different styles of leadership and help you understand when to use a style that's appropriate for the situation. Okay? And we're going to do that in less than an hour. And you're going to come out and you're going to have an idea, a specific opportunity for you to put this into practice. And my hope is as you start to do this, you don't have to wait till you get a job or get responsibility in that job. You can put this into practice in a way that will make you a more effective person, friend, but also a better leader in organizations, in teams, a better manager. So, situational leadership, 3 simple steps. Number 1, it's right there at the top of the page. Identify a person or team and the specific job, task, activity, goal, what you want to, the area of influence. We've already done that. We've already done step 1. You've already identified a person, you've got them in your mind. I know you do, right? Okay, do I need to take a moment to make sure you all have a person in your mind? Nod if you have a person in your mind in a specific area you want to influence them. Okay, I'm not seeing a lot. Yeah.
So it can be like a group of people, not necessarily just one person.
It can be. What I often find is that, like if you have responsibility for a group, sure, it should be that group. When we're learning, one of the tricks is sometimes everybody in the group is not in the same place in terms of as we go through this model. But if you've got responsibility for a group that you're trying to lead, absolutely. Make that, as what I said, a person or team in a specific. You're trying to think of one situation. So it's not just all your friends. One person, a couple of people. Specific area you want to influence them on. A specific task, goal you would have for them. Okay? Yes?
Can you say exactly what do you mean routine?
Sorry?
What can you say about routine? What should you exactly about the person's routine?
Is that on the sheet? Is it a job? Well, all I mean is you have some goal to influence them in some specific way. You're helping them to start or to improve in a task that they already are doing, or to embrace a goal that they don't yet have, or maybe they do, but to work toward that goal. Yeah?
And do I have to think just about person who stands under me, who I'm responsible about, or anyone?
No, as I said, it could be your parents. This material is not will help you in any, because we all as humans, we want to influence people around us, not just people underneath us, people who are younger than us physically in age. We want to influence the people around us, including our parents. And we should. Now, we need to do it gently. Sadly, you can't fire your parents. I mean, not that that's sad, but in other words, you don't have higher firepower over your parents. So you have to kind of take them as you get them. But you can still influence. We'll give you some tricks. Okay? So you got that. We've done step 1. We will come back to that because I'm going to take a few of your specific scenarios and we're going to hear about them. We're going to work with them as case studies for steps 2 and 3. Okay? So I really do want you to all have somebody in mind. And I know in this group of mostly leaders, we're going to have lots of potential case studies to pick from. Sometimes it's hard to kind of pull that out from smaller groups or groups where there's not as many verbal people as we've got in this room. It's really great. So then, that's step 1 of 3 steps. We're almost there. Second step, assess the person or team's current performance readiness. Now at this stage, often people will turn the page. They were on the English side, but they want to know what that word assess means. Evaluate, score, give an assessment, a kind of an understanding, a picture of how ready this person or team is for the task that you have before you. So if it's situational, we're thinking not just about a person, but about a specific area we want them to grow or learn. How ready are they? Now, another kind of leadership model could ask you, well, give them a score on a scale of 1 to 10, or send them to this website, they answer a few questions, and you read out a score, and that gives you a readiness number, That is too complicated. This is much simpler. There's no subjective analysis. They're just 2 simple yes-no questions. First question. Is the person or team currently performing the task, achieving the goal, whatever, at sustained, acceptable levels? Each word of that question is important. The question is the person currently performing? The question is not, have they ever done it? The person that you're hoping will quit smoking, the question is not, well, have they ever theoretically quit smoking? Oh, thousands of times. Yeah, they do it almost every day. No. They're not quitting smoking, so the answer is no to that first question. For the brother who you would like to pick up his clothes, the question is not, does your brother know how to bend at the waist, use his finger and thumb to pick up clothes from the floor, take them over to the closet, know where they theoretically go, and how to fold them up and put them away? It is not. That is not the question. Of course, your brother knows theoretically how to pick up his clothes. The question is your brother picking up his clothes at a sustained, acceptable level? No. No. That's why you have the problem you have. You see? The question is very simple. You don't give extra credit because you like the person, because they're your brother or your mom. You understand? Sustained, acceptable level. So it doesn't have to be perfect. If the person, for example, if the task was making dinner, and every night this person can make your kid sister, your kid brother is learning how to cook, and for 5 nights running can make a good meal. You're glad to eat it. There's plenty of food. That's acceptable. Now, could your kid brother or sister, continue to learn how to cook better? Of course. But if it's sustained, acceptable levels, the answer is yes. If it's sporadic or not acceptable, doesn't matter how good they could be in theory, the answer is no. Yes, no question. Once you really understood the question, it's a very simple answer. Second question. Is the person confident, committed, and motivated? Again, all those words are important. A person could be motivated but insecure. The answer is no. A person could be confident but unwilling. The answer is no. If the person is confident, committed, and motivated, the answer is yes. Okay? With those two questions, two possible answers to each question. 2 squared is 4. Yes, 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 no, no, yes, no, no. You have 4 possible answers. 4 possible sets of answers. Right? With that, you have 4 levels of readiness. So I'm going to go through those briefly and describe them, and then we'll kind of go back through, we'll hear from a few case studies from the class. Readiness level 4 is the person who said yes to both questions. They are able, in other words, they're currently performing it, and they're motivated. They're doing it. They're able and they know it. You don't have to think about it very much. They just do it. Readiness level 4. There was a time when my kids had to be prepped for school. I had to wake them up, make sure they got breakfast, make sure they got dressed in time, and make sure they had all their books in their backpack, and were ready to go out the door in time to get to school on time. Now, happily, long ago, they became readiness level 4 at getting themselves ready for school. Imagine how embarrassing it would be to them and tedious for me if every morning I had to call my son, Mark, it's time to wake up. Mark, don't you have a test today? Mark, are you there? Right? I'm guessing your parents trust that you can get yourself to school on time. Readiness level 4. Readiness level 3, we said yes to the first question. They are able. They know they can consistently turn out a good whatever it is we're shooting for. But they're not confident, not committed, motivated. Said no to the second question. Often, this is a person who has recently become able. So again, think about the sister who's learning how to cook. She's learning how to cook. In fact, she's made great meals night after night. But she would oh so much rather her mother cook. She's such a better cook. Well, of course she is. She's been cooking for ages. But she's capable. She can do it every time. Does she have things to learn? Of course. But she lacks confidence. She's the R3 readiness level. R2 is quite different. We said no to the first question, but yes to the second. No, they're not able, they're not doing it, but yes, they are motivated, confident. Now, this confidence is not the confidence of, yeah, I can do this. It's the confidence of, I think I can grow, I can learn to do this. If any of you have ever worked a job, gotten a new job, usually when you start a new job, you start at readiness level 2. Right? You're excited. You're going to finally get income for your labor. But you don't know how to do the job. Now, of course, you're hired because you've got some skill. I mean, you know how to use a computer, you know how to use a phone, but you don't know how to talk to the customers of this particular company when they ask you questions about their order or what it is. And there are things that you have to learn about your job. That's natural. No boss expects that you know the job from minute 1 of day 1. Some tedious jobs may take you 10 minutes to learn. The really interesting jobs may take you a year to really become proficient at. But when you start a new job or the beginning of a new class or major or new course of study, you start at R2. Some of you have programmed computers. When you start programming for the first time, you usually start at R2. You're motivated, you want to learn, but you're not able to do the job. You have to learn. Okay? That's the R2 level. R1 is an even lower level. No to the first question, not able. No to the second question, not motivated. This is the person who does not want to learn how to program computers, or does not want to learn to pick up their clothes and put them in the closet, or to quit smoking. They're not doing their job, the goal, the task that we have for them, and they are not motivated for it. Okay? Some of you are thinking about R1 people. Now we're going to give you some guidance, and you'll walk away with some ideas about how to help an R1 person. But that's the person who is not signed up. Usually, nobody starts a new job as an R1. When you start as a new job, you start motivated. Now, if your boss treats you in a certain way, you can end up R1. We'll talk about that. Okay? So what I'd like to do is to hear from a few people, and this is the format of the way I'd like to just say your name, say the person, how they're related to you, friend or family member or whatever, the task or goal you have for them, the area that we're specifically thinking of. And then walk through the two questions. Are they currently doing it? Are they motivated? And then give us a readiness level number based on the answers to those two questions, okay? So, who would like to start? Got a room full of leaves. Okay, so I'm planning to hear, I will call you first. I saw your hand first, and then you guys right after. So go ahead. And just state your name.
Hi guys, my name is Irinadi. So my area of influence is my team, who I do my project with. It's information of young people about regular vehicle lamination. So the person team performing at esteemed acceptable levels. Yes, of course. Because my team members are also participants of this leadership school. And if the person or team confident, committed, and motivated, should, yes. So
Okay, so there are four.
yeah.
Okay, so let me just ask a follow-up. What are you asking for from your team?
Be active and to be interested in our project and to give information, to share our information, because our goal of our project is information young people about
Providing information and actually providing motivation, right?
Yeah,
You want to influence and motivate people, and is your team succeeding?
we are progressing.
So it just sounds to me like you're giving a little bit of extra credit to your team. And just, you can tell me that, no, they really are succeeding, but you're not persuading me that they are succeeding.
Sure, we are succeeding. But my team needs information, not motivation, not
Just information.
not leadership, but information. Because
Okay.
my team, they are leaders.
Okay, and I don't know enough about your team, but let me just say, everybody in this room is R1 at something, right? Yes. I personally am R1 at eating salad. I wish I loved salad more than ice cream, but I don't. So my point is, and I'm not saying that, well, that's not important. No, I really wish I ate more salad. But I'm R1. My wife wishes I ate more salad, but she knows because I'm R1, not the book. So you could have a team of all very functional leaders who are nevertheless not performing adequately the current task. And let me put it this way. Your job as people to develop as professionals in your careers is to get yourself not to R4, but where? What's the sweet spot of your own growth and development? No, not R1. R2. Okay? If you work in a job where you're R4 after 1 month, that is a terrible job for you. Okay? If you work at a task where you're R4 in a job that has many tasks, well, that's fine. When that task comes up, you're R4, you can do it just fine. Find the tasks where you're R2. That's the sweet spot for your own growth. So part of my point here is, just because these people are in this room and they're really sharp people, and I can tell this is a room full of really sharp people, doesn't mean they're all R4 at the tasks that you have for them. Okay? Does that make sense? And because if they are not R4, it does not help them to treat them like they are. Okay? At the end of the day, we want the leadership style we offer to match the need. That's the thing that's going to help people the most. It's going to be the most loving friendship thing to do, honoring thing to do. Okay? So I appreciate your suggestion. I don't want to go forward in some ways because I don't want you to have to kind of talk about it could be a little awkward, but that's the point on that. Good. So number 2. Thank you. What's your name?
Hi everyone, my name is Yana.
Yeah. And sorry, I missed your name. What was
Juvenile.
Juvenile.
Like juvenile.
Oh, juvenile. Okay. Juvenile. Juvenile. Okay. Well, once I see it spelled, then okay. Thank you. And you're Yana. So just speak so they can hear you, not just me.
Okay, so I'm a monitor at my university, and that's why I have certain kind of obligations. And exactly this week I have such a task to fill in the blanks according to the answers of the questions of my group to different kinds of questions like how much do they like the duties at our university? It's like a statistics to make our studies better.
Yeah.
And I have a task to fill in all that blanks, and they should be ready till the Friday.
Okay.
And that's why I have to give it to my students and them to fill in, take them, and just take them to the teachers.
Okay.
And so the step first, I think my group is ready for that. They already know what they should do and what to write.
Okay.
And step 2, they are rather confident in their answers, and I think that my style of leadership in this situation is delegation.
Okay. So you just ask them to do it and email you the results.
Yes.
Great. Okay, good. So that's a classic R4 and team that's both they're ready to do the job, they're motivated, they've done it before in previous
We just
semesters.
should do it in time. It's like
What's the
an
question?
every year
You
operation.
have no doubt that they are going to do it in time.
I have no doubt.
Okay, excellent. This is classic R4 situation. Thank you. Yeah. And were you the person yes. Just so speak to them, not to me.
Okay, good evening to everybody. I'm glad to see you all. My name is Milena Olhan, and the first person whom I thought about that task was my father.
Okay.
And I thought I have not so easy task now, because the first I thought how I would like to influence on him is to change his way of thinking. Because now, because of some, I don't want to stop in this situation, but because of some political situation, my father now has some problems. He's a young leader, and what I really want, I want to show him how to be a more happy person, and how
good.
to how to think, not to think only about bad things.
Good.
That's my goal.
Good.
But to show him how to change it and how to make it the right thing.
Okay.
And that's why I am our.
He is in R1.
Yes, he is in our.
You're trying to change his thinking to help him be happier. That's a good, people could have a vision to change their parents' thinking so that they would be happy. And that's not a terrible thing, but you want your father to be happier. He's locked in on something. He's not doing that now, and he's not motivated to change his thinking. He's classic R1. Thank you. Do I have one more? Back here. Just speak up.
Sorry?
Speak up.
Okay, my name is Manor. So I have two objects. First of all, like, it's okay, both of them or one?
Just one. Sorry.
Just one, okay.
Time-wise.
I'm going to personal stuff. So, bookmates, I want to make them more protected than distracted, you know. More metabolic than catabolic. So it's kind of
Okay.
to produce something
Good.
in society, not just consuming, not just
Yes.
like lying down, like usual routine. No, I want to make them leaders in a way, to produce something, to start the society.
These are your housemates?
No, roommates, the university. The university.
Roommates? Groupmates. Oh, in a project. Okay.
Yeah, but about the evaluation of them, first of all, yeah, but they are not insecure, you know. Yeah.
So they are currently productive.
Yeah, but they're insecure. They're not confident enough to start first step, you know.
Okay, so I didn't hear you describing people that are currently living out the goal you have for them. Are they currently living in the way you have a goal for them?
They are like trying to make the first step, but you know that going out of the comfort zone is kind of...
Sustained acceptable levels, yes or no?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yes.
So are they sustained acceptable? I mean, I'll take your word for it. You're the expert. But as you described them, it sounded like you want them to be more productive than distracted. Are they currently more distracted than productive?
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer is no
So,
to the first question.
first question is gonna be no. The second question.
You tell me.
Yeah, I can. It's kind of confusing to answer.
Okay.
And then they're willing, yeah, and unable, but they're willing and confident. You know, they want.
They
So
want
it's
to.
gonna be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they want to be people who are more productive than distracted. They are more distracted with their devices or their,
Virtual vibe.
with their lives than they are productive. But they want to be people who are productive.
Yeah.
You have a vision for that. But if that's the case, so they want to be, there are two. Two of them are, and one of them isn't yet. He's R1. But we'll go with that, okay?
In
Come
general,
back.
if we're talking about humanism, each human wants to start. Like he's like wants to produce something. So in general, like what in my environment I can tell that are productive in desire.
Yeah, so I do not believe that everybody wants to be productive. I think that's, ultimately I think everybody, that's a need and we will, but I think there's a lot of not productive people out there. And that's a part of the tension you're facing. So it sounds like there is some kind of motivational issue. We'll come back to that. But I'll give you credit. You believe your folks are R2 because they are motivated? We'll go with that. And if they're not, they're R1, and we'll talk about that as well. Okay? So again, we don't have time for more case studies because I want to get through the material in the time allotted. But I want all of you to be thinking about your own case study in light of the questions we've just asked. Okay? So you should have a readiness level in mind for the person as we walk through it. And just a couple of points. Don't give extra credit because they're your friend or your brother. Don't give credit to them because you know their heart. This is not about seeing into their motivations. This is about looking at their track record. Are they doing it? Yes. Are they not doing it? No. Then the second question, are they confident? Are they engaged? Going for it? Withholding? Insecure? Things that you can see. Not mysteries deep in the human heart. So we should have a readiness level for everybody. Now we get to the third step. The second step is really the hard step. The third step is easy because we just match the user, the person's readiness level with our appropriate leadership style. If they're R4, we use S4. Now, at the beginning, I talked about these two leadership models, right? On the one side, you've got the autocrat. On the other side, you have the democrat, or the kind of the. One way to put that is, on the autocratic side, you have the task-oriented leader who just focuses on getting the job done, doing it my way, etc. On the other side, you have the relationship-oriented leader who, wants to know how your weekend was and asks about your family, remembers your birthday. Another key insight in situational leadership is that task and relationship aren't on the same spectrum, but they are independent axes. So you see on the sheet you have before you, I have it a little bigger here. This is the only place where I couldn't use a PowerPoint, but it's just so simpler not to have to worry about PowerPoint slides. So I just want to point, there's two axes, a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. They're right on your sheet. There's arrows there and everything. They're marked. The horizontal axis is the task orientation of the leader, from low to high. The vertical axis is the relationship orientation of the leader, from low to high. With those two axes, you get 4 possible leadership styles. Low, low. Again, that fourth box. Low, low. Low task, high relationship. High, high. High, high. And high, low. Okay? So that's how it kind of fits on this page. Now I want to describe those styles. They are different in some understandable ways. The low style, the S4 style, is the delegating style. When my kids became capable at getting themselves to school, I did not ride them. I did not get them up in the morning. I did not make sure they got breakfast. I did not make sure their backpacks were filled with the things that they needed for school. I did not even remind them to leave the house at the appropriate time, because they were R4 at that. My delegating style was, I don't have to think about it. Now, of course, that didn't mean I got to sit back and just play with my devices all day long while my kids are trying to figure out the rest of their lives. I started focusing on other more advanced tasks with my kids. We're highly involved with them in a different way on their homework, or the level of engagement on their writing, on their public speaking. But that task was one I just delegated to them. If there was ever a problem, if they overslept and it was obvious, I would engage, but I didn't ride them. Does that make sense? The S4 style, hands up. Low task, I'm not monitoring the progress. Low relationship, I'm not investing a lot of time relationally on this task, because they're R4. The R3 style, again, the person who is capable is doing the job, but is a little insecure. Doesn't need high task involvement from the leader, from me as a dad, or from me as a boss. Need a little support, a little relational involvement. So think about somebody who's preparing for a talk, for a group project you're working on. There's somebody who's going to give the final talk for the project report. You have confidence in this person. You know they're a good public speaker. They've done it before. They themselves feel themselves not adequate. They think you would do such a better job. But you'd like to see them do it. You say, I believe in you. I know you can do this. But if you'd like, give me a call the night before the project, the report on Friday, and let's go over your plan. Send me your PowerPoint, and we'll go over it on the phone. Or I'm glad to come over, if that would help you. We can practice it in your living room. Or, that would be the S3 style. Support. Not focused on, all sorts of details about improving the content of the delivery, but on supporting and encouraging and giving comfort for the person who lacks a little bit of confidence or motivation. S3 style. The S2 style is the coaching style for the person who is R2, who's now not doing the job, not on a regular basis, but is motivated. The new employee needs a coach to help them walk through the steps of being good in the job. These are the tasks that you need to learn. These are the things that you can do. Let me give you some feedback. When you look over your weekly report, okay, first of all, it's not filled in right, but secondly, there's not enough detail here, or there's too much detail here, or whatever. Or if the person who's giving the project report is the R2 person, is an R2 person instead of R3, instead of saying, I believe in you, but let's go over it on Friday or Thursday night if you need some help, and say, why don't we go over it on Tuesday? And we'll run it through a couple of times, and if there's any changes that are needed, we can do that again on Thursday. Expecting that changes would be needed, expecting that the capability level isn't there. That's the coaching style. I'm guessing some of you have had coaches, actual sports coaches. All right? Anybody? Yeah. And the rest of you have seen coaches in movies, right? So you know what a coach is like. Imagine a coach watching a football practice. People are out there on the field for an hour, they come in. The coach says, kind of the wrap-up session, says, wow, that was awesome. You got it. Great. You were perfect. You did everything right. Watching you guys was like poetry in motion. Okay, is that your impression of a coach? Is that what a coach would say? No. Maybe a mom, right? But coach would have some ideas. Okay, yeah, you did a couple of things right, I give you that. But there are 3 things you guys did wrong. We're going to drill on those things so we're ready for Saturday's game. The coach focuses on the gap between current performance and acceptable or ideal performance, right? The coach is always focused on improvement, always has feedback. Now, the coach is also relationally very engaged, knows the players' names, knows what's going on with them, has some compassion for them, is not just yelling rules at them. And often, even though the coach is always focused on improvement, and therefore you might think they're always negative, often, when a player's finish their secondary schooling, they look back on that coach, their sports team coach, as perhaps the adult in their life that had the most influence in their life outside their own parents. Right? Because that coach believed in them. Gave them feedback only because they believed that they could become proficient. Right?
Yes.
That's a great role. So the coach role, who explains, who understands, who problem solves, who picks things apart, evaluates, watches the game films and says, okay, here's where it all blew up. Here's where it all went. It's a huge role. Finally, then, there's the R1 person. And so you back there, what's your name again?
Mine?
Yeah.
Manar. M-A-N-A-R.
Manar.
Manar. Yeah.
Manar. Okay. So Manar said he had a group of people in his group are R2. They want to become more productive than distracted, though they are currently distracted. So as a coach, Manar would be getting in there, would be relating to them, would be modeling productive behavior, would be giving them feedback. Okay, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is exactly the non-productive behavior that I'm trying to help us to. Why don't you limit it? Is there a possibility of limiting your device game playing to 30 minutes a day? Or at least 30 minutes in every 4-hour period of time. Or whatever would be a growth step for this group. But it would be some kind of coach. The coach kind of gives goals, performance goals, and kind of points out places where the team is failing. The Manar would be doing that with his friends, being very visibly, engaged, knowing what they're doing, and high relationship, high task focus, helping them cross that line. So to get to the point where actually, game playing is not as satisfying as being productive. Actually getting stuff done in a way that develops me as a person is ultimately more satisfying than just playing a stupid game, which doesn't get me anywhere except really sore thumbs or whatever. Finally, there's the R1 person who is not motivated, not doing it and not motivated. We have some people like that. Let's see, who was an R1? Yeah, you have, and who was your father. Yes. So your father is thinking about things in one way, he's kind of got his mindset fixed. When we have an R1 person, and some of you will be thinking about R1 people you would like to influence in a way that they haven't said, oh, please influence me in this way. The style that matches the R1 need is the S1 style. I've got invitation or also directing style. The goal of the S1 leadership style is not to get someone to be proficient. It's just to get a motivated yes. The goal in talking with your father is not to get him thinking a new way, but to get him to describe what his life would be like, or the costs of his mentality on you, on himself, on his wife, your mom, and on others in your family, and to describe what life could be like if he was open to changing his way of thinking. And since your hope is ultimately that his happiness improves, to describe how that would affect his own happiness as well as the happiness of those around him. That won't change his thinking. That won't get, if you've got R1 people who are not productive, they're all distracted, and they're not motivated to change, having the S1 style conversation won't get them all the way to R4. Your only goal is to get them to say, yes, I'm willing to try this. Once you have that, they're no longer R1. Right? Now they're R2. And you can work with that. Right? But here's the thing. Sometimes your mom may have tried to influence you by giving you little tips, little coaching tips on things like eating salad. But you're R1. In this case, my wife. Right? It doesn't matter how many tips she gives me about eating salad. If I'm R1, those tips, frankly, are just annoying. Right? I need to become R2 at eating salad. Still not very good at it. I still have lots to learn. But now I'm willing to engage. And then those tips, the coaching advice, the reminders, the help. I said, yes, I want to do this. Now, all that stuff is useful. Okay? So part of the point is, don't waste your time or relational effort trying to influence people when you haven't gotten a motivated yes. It's time intensive to be a coach. It takes lots of relational time, lots of task-focused time. Don't waste that time, your time or theirs, if you don't have a motivated yes. Focus on the invitation to your father, to your friend, to your group, to get them to say yes. Okay, we want this. I believe you. Ask them to visualize what life would be like if they were already doing the thing you're asking them to start learning how to do, or growing in the direction that you're wanting them to grow. When they visualize that, when they see the benefits. Now, I'm not saying that if you use the S1 style, you will get people to agree with you in no time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that S1 style is the only style possible. It's not guaranteed to be effective. Does that make sense? If it were, I would already be R2 at Leading South. Okay? But it's your best shot. So don't try another style until you've tried the S1 style, inviting, explaining, telling them what you have to gain, what they have to gain, and how you would like to invite them to embrace this opportunity, this growth. Once they say yes, they're R2, now you can coach them, they become R3, you support them, eventually become proficient, and you delegate in that area. You don't think about it too much. Okay, that's the whole model. We've got a few minutes. I have a few more things I can say, but I want to make sure we're addressing the things that are issues for you. So, are there questions about this or further elaborations you would like? Yes?
Yeah, Mr. Tell us please, what made you to be R4 and all experience in your life? Maybe you have special tricks to be confident.
So I said I would get, so you kind of referred to yourself, and Manar also mentioned the possibility. One of the insights of this situational leadership is you can use this on yourself, right? So this is not just about the people you're influencing, though that's the way I set it up until Manar went ahead and just kind of jumped ahead 2 levels and said, well, what about, can I use myself? I said, no, not to start with, but of course you can. You yourself are going to be R4 at some things that you don't have to focus on in terms of your own development. As I said earlier, you want in your whole life to be finding things that you're R2 at and then giving yourself to the development of those things. Some of those things will require finding coaches. Literally, people who can mentor and develop you. Sometimes those coaches will be people you read biographies about. Business biographies or other biographies about people you can learn from through the pages of their story. Sometimes those will be things that you read on the internet where people have written articles about things that you were working on and you're not personally relating to them, but they can help you. So I encourage you to learn from all these sources. And I do not think of myself as at R4 in every aspect of life. I'll tell you an example. I wrote my first book when I was 25. It was a computer science textbook. It was teaching people. I took my teaching notes from my teaching courses, and I turned it into a book, 600-page book. A few years later, I wrote a book about Christian discipleship. It was based on the stuff I had been teaching for a while. I wrote another book a few years later. I've written a lot of books and articles and things like that. Right now, I'm struggling. Personally, I'm R2, motivated but not, and I have some ideas about it, but I have been a proficient writer. I am right now struggling as a writer. I have things I would like to write, but I'm struggling. So my point is not that I achieved R4-ness in every aspect of life. That would be pretty death to me. I mean, that would be not very attractive. I hope you all think of yourselves as on a lifelong quest. Not ever satisfied at being R4 at everything. That means you're not growing. Always looking for new places, new levels of responsibility. One of the things I've said in other settings, I want to say especially to this group. If you are, let me just say, in organizations, in governments, in societies, leadership is a precious resource. This kind of leadership, the type of leadership we're talking about, is scarce. You will not join businesses where your boss is going to coach you and then support you and then perfectly delegate to you. And you'll just kind of move around the developmental cycle, and then he'll ask you to do another thing, and you'll be R2 again, and he'll just take you through that whole. You will not be in businesses where this thing will be easy. But let me tell you, I invite you to become good at learning the skills of being a coach, of being a support, of being able to step away when the people that you've been leading now are good at it, and you can delegate it. Because if you can do that, you can, even if you're not a boss, You can offer that coaching and support and delegation to your colleagues. You can be a part of making a difference in the leadership culture of whatever organization you're a part of. At least it'll make your job in that company more satisfying for you, more developmental for the people around you. But I also guarantee, companies will notice when you do this. Because let's face it, every company is willing to pay you if you can do a job for them. But if you can help people around you become proficient in their jobs, that company will pay you more money, give you more responsibility. Rather than waiting for the responsibility that allows you to kind of lead a team, be the kind of person that activates the whole team, makes them all more effective. Your boss will notice. Be grateful, and in the best places to work, will reward you, both financially and with more responsibility. Go ahead.
You recommend some movies related to this topic?
That's a longer question. There are movies about coaching, which I really recommend. Ask me after. Also about a variety. I mean, I only know American movies, so I know a few Bollywood movies, which I really like. So I'm not sure I can do much help there. I did want to say one thing related to what I've just been talking about. In a leadership scarce environment, again, ideally, this is the pathway. This is the pathway. You have the directing conversation, the S1 style, the invitation style, when you're being interviewed for a job. Right? Your boss doesn't really know you very well. He's not really trying to. Just trying to get to know you as an employee and spell out the job. He likes you, offers you the job, or she likes you, offers you the job. You accept the job. Now you're R2. And ideally, the boss is coaching you, or somebody is. In resource-constrained, in leadership-scarce environments, this is the path. We have a hiring interview, you get hired, and now you're being delegated to. Here's your desk, there's your phone, there's your task list, get to work. Sometimes you have bosses that supervise 50 people. In that setting, you're not going to get coached. In that setting, the boss is going to delegate to you until there's a problem, then he's going to be back over here telling you what to do and why you're doing it wrong. And then back over here. Now you will learn. You will learn through hard knocks, the unpleasant at times. You will not enjoy it as much as you would if you were going through this with a coaching boss that's also supporting and giving you exactly what you need on every task when you need it. My appeal to you is today, this week, start working with this material. Start using this with your friends, with your family members. Become adept at providing a variety of leadership styles that match the situation. So that when you get to the point where you're an employer, when you're a boss, you actually are able to provide a leadership-rich environment. It will be more satisfying for you, more rewarding for your company, your organization, your business will go further faster because you're able to develop the people that you hire, not just use them and then spit them out and throw them away. And at the end of the day, you want to be the kind of people that have influence in all the relationships that you have. And this material, this stuff, put into practice, will help you be more effective in every relationship you care about, your husband, your wife, your kids, your family, your friends, every relationship you care about your whole life long. That's the invitation. Don't fail to think about, put it into practice this week, and begin that process of really becoming a person who creates a wealth of leadership opportunities for the people around them. I think with that, what I'd like you to just remind you, you've got these little comment sheets. If you could just continue to fill that out. Again, your email on it would indicate to us that you would like a copy of these files in Russian and English. We'll send those to you. And we'd love to have your feedback and also ideas if this organization does this kind of stuff and would like to do more of it. If there's ideas about some other topics or any feedback you have, we would love to get it. Thank you for coming.